Hello everybody. Right, for those of you expecting to see Andy and Davey tonight, we swapped round simply because I've got to go to London very early on Thursday morning. So they've done me a kindness and swapped over, so they're going to be on Wednesday night. So you're putting up with me tonight, I'm afraid. And right, tonight then we've got Mr. Simon Thurlow having a chat about his recent trip down to the Health and Safety Commission, or communities, or he'll tell us in a bit. Acronyms, love them. Yeah, so he's going to be on chatting about that. And time permitting, I've got a bit of VT for you guys as well. But we should see how it goes, because we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants tonight, as we do pretty much every night. And again, I've switched camera angles, by the way, so if I keep looking over here, that's because I'm used to that and not used to looking over here. Yeah, right. Okay then. Right, so opening titles, and then we'll crack on. See you in a second.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapers.tv.
Hello, we're back, and to what side? Now that side, which you can't see me pointing, is Mr. Simon Thurlow, and who's recently had a little visit to someone. So, would you like to fill us in? Let's just crack on.
Yeah, well, basically, as part of the Save e-cigs campaign that we've been running in Wales to try and stop this mad stuff going on, where they're trying to ban all the vaping in closed public spaces. The latest one was that I got that it'll get referred to the Health and Social Care Committee, and they will do a call for evidence. This is one of the things that came out of the meeting that I was not aware of. And David Rees, the Labour AM I met with, kindly taught me through what the process is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I understand it, and the way he told it to me last Thursday, what will happen is that the public health white paper first has to be published. It hasn't been published yet, and it's expected to be published just before the summer recess. Okay, so you're talking about a couple of months away, yeah?
Yeah.
When it is published, it then gets passed to the Health and Social Care Committee. Now, the Health and Social Care Committee is made up of cross-party what am I looking for? Cross-party representation. But three of the important people that are sitting on there as far as vapers are concerned are Kirsty Williams, the Lib Dem leader, Ellen Jones, by Cymru, and Darren Miller from the Conservatives. All three of whom are highly supportive of e-cigs.
Yeah.
So the purpose for me meeting with the chair last week is to try and talk this guy around a bit as well. And him being a Labour AM, I was expecting it to be a bit difficult as meetings go. But the meeting started off, he turned around and said, well, the reason he didn't want to meet with me in the first place is because he was trying to stay neutral to the whole issue. He didn't want to have any opinion on it until it got to the HSCC. But then he changed his mind because of various naggings from the likes of Katie and the Save e-cigs campaign, and he agreed to meet with me. So the first thing I did was go at pains to point out to him that I'm not there to influence him. I was just merely there to provide him with an alternative view of the available evidence out there, i.e. to basically tell him that everything Mark Drakeford has been telling him is a load of, or what's the kind word I can use, shite?
That'll do, yeah.
So, yeah, so I just did my usual spiel with him that I've done with all the other AMs, provided him with different kinds of evidence. In this case, I used slightly different stuff because one of the bits of evidence I gave him was the article the excellent article that Linda Bold wrote in The Guardian recently, that was refuting something that somebody else associated with University of Stirling had put up, which was basically slagging off e-cigs, and she corrected that. So I presented that to him. I also presented him with the article from The Spectator that Derek Yack did, the former Director General of the WHO, I believe he was, wasn't he? And then a few other small things, like, like I gave him Clive Bates' document, which is basically a briefing for politicians on anybody else that's in public health. And also, the responses from the RCP, Royal College of Physicians, and Ash Wales, who both basically opposed Dreyford's plans as well. So we went through that. We had a couple of discussions going back and forth about various things that why what he's trying to do is unworkable, and then he eventually then decided to describe to me what the whole process would be with the HSCC. Now, as I alluded to a bit earlier, the next stage is the white paper will get published, and then it goes to the HSCC. The interesting bit when it goes to the HSCC, which I didn't realise, was that when they do a call for evidence, anybody can respond to it. Now, I'd always understood it up to this point being that it would be down to the individual members of the HSCC to decide who can respond, but apparently that's not the case. They will put out a call for evidence, and I have been added to the mailing list, so I will know when this happens. And then any individual, organisation, scientist, medical person, anyone can actually respond to that and provide evidence to it.
When I say anyone, do I mean anyone worldwide?
Yes, anyone worldwide.
So if we, for example, were to get, I don't know, maybe Dr. Farsalinos to submit some evidence.
Yeah, it would be perfectly acceptable for him to do so. I mean, it is literally anyone. I mean, one of the things I'm going to do as a member of the NNA is I'm going to implore the NNA to respond to it as an organisation. And there are plenty of other organisations out there, again, who may well deem that they want to reply to this as well. Now, that's all going to happen over the summer recess. So when they come back then in end of September, I believe, that's the point in which they'll then start collating all the evidence they've received. Now, it is quite possible that based on some of the evidence they get back, that they invite some people in to present personally. Okay, I don't know whether that will happen, and I don't know how it works, but it is possible, apparently, that might happen.
Okay.
But basically, at this stage, then, what happens is that various members of the HSCC can then recommend amendments, additions, or indeed removals from the public health white paper. And as you'll understand when I go through to the next parts, the best thing that can happen as far as e-cigs is concerned is that at this point we need it removed.
Yes.
So whatever happens then, let's say, for example, we manage to get e-cigs removed. It then goes, stage 3, it goes to the AMs, and they have a look at it. And the AMs, as in the General Senedd, they have a look at it and, decide whether they're happy with that or whether they need to refer it back to the HSCC for further amendments. So in other words, they can propose further amendments and the HSCC decide whether they agree with it or not. That's stage 3. Stage 4 is the final stage, and stage 4, by the time it gets this far, a lot of people who followed the TPD in the European Parliament might be a bit concerned because, as we find out now, it is virtually identical situation in the Welsh Government. When it gets to stage 4, however that white paper looks, whether e-cigs is still in, whether it's out, or however it looks, or they still, then and they pass the white paper, then the ban on vaping in public spaces will also carry through. The problem being is that when it gets to that stage, it's not only e-cigs that's involved. They got minimum unit pricing on alcohol. They got the tobacco register. There's all kinds of things in there. Now, you might find some AMs who agree with, 3/4 of what's in the white paper, but don't, for example, agree with the e-cig bit.
Yeah.
But they then need to decide for themselves whether they're going to bite the bullet and say, well, 3/4 of it is fine, the e-cigs bit isn't, but, because 3/4 is fine, I'm going to vote it through.
Yeah.
This is the issue we might have. This is why we have to get e-cigs out of there before it gets to stage 4.
Exactly.
Because otherwise there is a strong possibility we could have exactly the same things what happened in the TPD, where they didn't pull Article 20 from the TPD, if you remember, and then people were just voting on the TPD as a whole. And exactly the same thing can happen in the white paper.
Yeah.
This is something we have to be very, very wary of.
And that's the way they've gotten a lot of policies through in the past, isn't it? They tack it onto something else which they know full well is going to that everyone wants, and as a consequence, the minor thing as it's seen goes through as well.
Yeah. So we need to really push on the call for evidence, and personally, I'm going to be leaning heavily on the likes of Kirsty, Darren, and Ellen to push them to get the e-cigs out of that white paper before it gets to stage 4. We have to get it out of there before it goes to stage 4, otherwise it becomes a lottery.
So is there anything that we can do in the meantime while we're waiting for this, or is it now just waiting for the call for evidence?
It's waiting for the call for evidence, to be honest with you. I mean, from the point of view of what we're in Wales is doing, I'm still looking to meet with more AMs and try and talk them around, present the evidence to them and show them, why Drayford is wrong. And that's all I can do now, and that's all any of us can do in Wales until the call for evidence comes out. When a call for evidence comes out, and they basically offer around about 3 months over the summer recess. So we got a lot of time. I don't know what timescales they'll put out for for responding to the call for evidence, but I'm assuming it'll probably be for the course of the summer. That being the case, then we'll have 3 months to put things together and try and get us into try and get our point of view into the mindset and get it removed. We have to get it removed before it gets through to stage 4. End of. Yeah. If we don't, then it's in the lap of the gods.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredibly important, not just for Wales, but obviously for the UK as a whole, because the Wales is the first area to do it in the UK.
Yeah, but the interesting bit, I mean, me and Rydian were discussing this in the pub on Saturday. The interesting bit is because the timescales are looking at, they don't expect the final vote for stage 4, or certainly David Rees was indicating the timescales he was looking at. He said by the time it gets to stage 4, he expects it to be somewhere around about March 2016. Now, as I understand it, Totally Wicked's case against the TPD is due to be heard sometime in the autumn, sometime around about September, October, as I understand it.
Yeah.
The interesting bit for me is, if the TPD gets thrown out, where does that leave the Welsh Government white paper?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's still nothing stopping them in regards to carrying on with it, is there?
Because they're effectively going against European law, though, if they introduce a ban when the TPD has been overturned. So I'm not entirely sure of that. And that's going to be quite interesting to see what influence it has on these AMs if the TPD is defeated by Totally Wicked.
Oh, yeah. I certainly hope it's got a ripple effect. I really do. Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But that's basically, the crux of the discussion I had. I mean, it was a very good meeting. I'll be honest, as I said in the blog, I was somewhat wary going in to meet the guy because he's the first Labour AM met, and he was also a very important person because he's the chair of the HSCC. I didn't know what kind of reception I was going to get. And at first, when after we'd done the introductions, he just sat there and stared at me, and said, "Right, go on, tell me what you want to tell me." And I thought, "Oh, here we go! This is going to be a difficult meeting."
Yeah.
But after I made the point, I made a joke of it, to be honest, about saying, the Labour AMs are very difficult to get hold of, and he's the first one to come to see me, and thank you for agreeing to see me. And that broke the ice, believe it or not, because from that point on, then he was actually, quite friendly, affable, and open to talk.
Oh yeah,
he didn't give an opinion.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't expect him to as a Labour AM. Obviously, he's torn between party loyalty and as I would look at it, doing the right thing. But at least he sat there and he listened, and they've added me to all the mailing lists, so I am, totally up to date about when the call for evidence does come, and I get any other alerts as well now, and that's something I didn't have before. So and that's thanks to this guy.
Yeah.
So I can't fault him, and I won't. I won't criticise him at all. He was, totally up straight with me. So.
Oh, it's a milestone, if only for the sense that you actually got to talk to a Labour AM, as you say.
Well,
they'd be notorious to avoid.
Well, in fairness, we as a group have met one Labour AM before, but it wasn't me. It was Rydian and Pete Dermody.
Oh, that's right,
that met with Mike Hedges. And the only reason he met with Rydian and Pete is because, at the end of the day, he is our constituent AM. It is his duty to meet with him.
Yeah.
So, but so that's basically, that in a nutshell, that's the way the meeting went. And then, those are the important bits.
Certainly some positive steps there. And if you haven't read Simon's blog yet, that hopefully a link will be appearing in chat soon, but I'll also put the link on the description of his video after the event as well tonight or tomorrow morning. I'll pop it on. So you can have a read of it in full. It's a very nicely written, as all your pieces are, Simon. You do write a very nice blog. So I urge you all to have a read of it. So there we go. It's some news with some motion in it. I like that. Things are happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's slow going meeting these AMs. I mean, at the end of the day, they only generally tend to meet us during weekdays, and the difficult side, for any of us trying to meet with these AMs, is we have to get time off work to do it, and it's time consuming. We can't keep doing it all the time. And that's why, whenever you do something like this, it needs to be a group review. One person can't do it. I mean, you're talking about over 100 AMs. I mean, I couldn't possibly get around over 100 AMs on my own. So, that's why, I've heavily relied on the likes of Rydian and Rob, who's in the chat there, has also met, he was one of the guys that met with Ellen. And Pete has helped Rydian out with the meeting with Mike Hedges. And that's the way we have to do it. Yeah. And in fact, that's the way everybody would need to do it when they write to your AMs. That's why you see Dave Dawn always saying, write to your local AM, because, we can't meet all these people all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I believe it's in your blog as well. You mentioned about the template responses as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was quite an interesting bit. Yeah, I didn't realise this before, but the way it works, and apparently this is the way it works in all parliaments, all governments. If you write a response to any consultation and you use a template, the government will then, whether it's the Welsh government, Scottish government or the UK government, they will treat it as one response because effectively it's come from one organisation because it's a template. Now this is something I didn't know because something I brought up with them, on a question about how they counted all the responses they had, and this is the answer I got. Now, as it turned out, because of the fact that I wrote an essay and didn't do a template response when I responded to it, that would be counted as an individual one. But anybody who replies with a templated response, it is counted as one response. So it's something that we as vapers need to be very, very aware of when we're dealing with these government bodies and we're responding to consultations. Don't use templates.
Yeah. Every time I've written to an MP, an AM or MEP or whatever, I've written down pretty much a stream of consciousness. As far as I'm concerned, even if you're not particularly eloquent, it's not particularly well written, as long as you get your point across and you do it with a degree of passion that it signifies yourself, people will take notice of that.
Yeah, it just needs to be individual. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't, you could be dyslexic, you could have, great difficulty in expressing yourself. But as long as it's your response in your format, in the way that you want to see it, it is a response and it has to be considered.
Yeah, and I would bet as well that a written letter posted to them as opposed to an email probably have even more weight behind it.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, you look at the consultations anyway, even if you send them in an electronic form, you're still filling in basically what is a Word document. You know, so you use their template to answer the stuff, which is what I did. It is, basically a letter. It's just that you've sent that letter in electronic form.
Yeah. And everyone, all vapers, they spend a long time looking at websites of latest products. Well, take an evening off of that and write something, Well,
yeah, I was reading something in UK Vapers, and I can't remember what it was, but it was a couple of weeks back when people were talking about responding to something. I honestly can't remember what it was they responded to. And a couple of people had said, "Oh yeah, I've sent a response in, and said this, that, and the other," and said, "So, well, has anybody got a template, that you fill in?"
Oh yeah, I've seen many responses like that.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I've seen many like that. I'll tell you what. Let's have a quick ad break, because there's something else you want to talk about goings on in Wales as well, isn't there?
Yeah, something that came about today. Took me quite by surprise, actually. It might be something interesting. I don't know. I'm a little bit wary of it at the moment, but yeah, I would like to talk about it.
Okay, so we'll take an ad break and we'll come back and chat about that in a second.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
And we're back. So, you had a little bit of correspondence today, Simon, I understand.
I did, yeah. A little bit out of the blue. I had a how she describes herself as a trainee broadcast journalist based out of Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
A young lady who wants to. She's picked up on the e-cig issue in Wales, and she's picked up specifically on the fact that I'm one of the people that's opposing Mark Drakeford.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's looking to do, I think she's looking to do a piece on e-cigs, but she specifically wants to speak to, and she did make the point, people Cardiff-based or people who are in Cardiff who could meet with her to discuss exactly what a ban on e-cig, ban on vaping in public spaces would mean for any of the vapers. Now, the reason that she's Cardiff-based and as a trainee journalist, I don't suppose she's got any budget to travel around. I suspect what she's probably trying to do, as a trainee journalist, is make a bit of a name for herself, and pick up on something that will get a lot of coverage. And e-cigs certainly will, because the noises that we're all making there.
Yeah.
So if there are any Cardiff-based vapers watching who would like to participate with her, and have a chat with her and talk about what the ban means, let me know and I'll put you in touch with her. Now, bear in mind, I don't know anything about this girl and what her motivations are, so it could be that she's going to write a hatchet job. I don't know, but I don't get that impression from the way she's been messaging me.
And if anyone wants to get hold of Simon, you can see below his image there. You can see his Twitter address. So get hold of him there at Jester2109, and I'm sure he'll be happy to have a chat with you. Presumably
it's difficult for me to meet her because obviously I'm not based in Cardiff,
I mean, presumably she'll be happy for someone to go to Cardiff to have a chat to her.
Yeah, I mean, basically, first off, she asked me, "Am I in Cardiff over the next 2 to 3 weeks?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not. It's highly likely that I'm going to be away over the next 2 or 3 weeks again, because I spent most of my time working away."
Yeah.
So I just said, look, I'll ask around, see if there's any Cardiff-based vapers who are prepared to talk to her. So, if anybody does want to talk to her, please let me know, and I'll put you on to her, and you can make your own minds up whether she's going to do a hatchet job or report back to the rest of us how it goes. I mean, it could be she's looking to make a name for herself, so she may actually turn out to be a very good ally for us. We don't know. She might actually write a very good piece.
Or she might decide that she wants to do a sensationalist piece. Yeah.
She could, and that's the only reason I'm being careful. Now, I can see B in chat there, shouting hello. I don't know if that's anything about her being a Cardiff-based vapor that might want to meet with them, but
I missed that. Oh, there she is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know she's based in Cardiff, but that's all I would say is just be wary of this person, because I don't know an awful lot about her, but it could turn out to be good, it could turn out to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so tread carefully, and I would suggest to choose your words very carefully as well.
Yeah, I've been very wary of how I've responded to her in the first place anyway, so... Yeah. So another interesting thing that did come through, just quickly, before I finish, another thing, this also happened on Twitter today, and I suddenly got followed by a person today called Claire Barth. And it turns out she's actually the Welsh Public Affairs Officer for Cancer Research UK.
Right.
And she also tweeted me today, and basically turned around and said, "Would you be interested in attending the e-cig assembly briefing for AMs on 25th of March?" Which I found quite amusing, because I'm not quite sure what to make of that. I'm waiting to see if she comes back. I'm also waiting to see if Linda comes back and says anything, but I did copy her in the tweet that I sent back.
She hasn't blocked you, then?
Yeah, I mean, Linda may well not want vapors there with her, because she's doing a talk in e-cigs for AMs. But if Cancer Research UK are inviting me to it, and Linda is happy for me to go to it, then I'll go.
Yeah. So that's good then. Right. So I mean, chat's been quite busy here. Hi-Fi Stud does state there to emphasise going back to writing letters. Emphasise you are a constituent. Simply ask for a meeting at the surgery. Make them follow up. Make sure your full contact details are on the letter, and keep doing it until they meet you. If after 5 attempts there's nothing, complain to the Ombudsman. Copying the constituency office into the email as well. So that's some good advice there.
Well, it's especially important at the moment with MPs because they're looking for your vote at the moment.
Exactly right, yes. Yeah, and if every single voter turned round to, let's say, Labour and said, "We ain't voting for you," that's a fair chunk of votes.
Well, if they actually met 2.1 million vapors, I suspect that they'll probably end up meeting a much smaller proportion than that. But, in some for some MPs who are sitting on narrow majorities, then it could be enough to make them think.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. I mean, the downside, of course, is we as vapers are the very thin ends of the wedge. Most people that use electronic cigarettes up and down the UK, they're not even aware of this going on, really. And it's been said time and time again.
No, they're not. I mean, I talk to vapers that I see all the time, in different pubs, and they have absolutely no idea that e-cigs could potentially, all the e-cigs they're using, even the egos and all that, could potentially be banned.
Yeah. And I actually did an e-cig shop opened up in Bridgend Town Centre a couple of years ago now. I won't mention the name of the shop. It is a chain. And I just wandered in just to have a little nose, as one did, and there's nothing really in there that took my fancy. But I had a nose, and when I go into an e-cig shop, I like to have a chat with the people behind the counter as well. Just they're vapers. I want to have a chat with them. This person wasn't particularly engaging, but other people were wandering in, and someone else did actually ask, "Aren't these things going to be banned?" And the shop assistant just turned around and says, "Oh, we're okay until 2016," and that was it.
Yeah.
That's not a particularly good way of, keeping your business afloat, is it?
It's a very short-termist approach. I mean, if any vendor is looking that way, then basically, as far as I can tell, all they're looking to do is make as much money as they can up until 2016, and then they're going to bugger off out of it.
Yeah, which is a crying shame, really. There's a lot of these out, but there we go. It's a little mini rant from me. So, anyway, let's have a chat about vaping, shall we?
Indeed.
How are you getting with your DNA 40 you built?
Good now. Now I've mastered the component.
Yeah?
I had a few issues with it at first. One of the things I found is because of the fact that I tend to do quite a strong flavour mixture on it, I was gunking up the coils on it, which never happened with the Canthal, strangely enough.
Okay.
So I've since reduced the amount of flavouring I put into, and can't really see any noticeable difference, in the amount of flavour I was getting through with it, and it's working much better now. Because I found I was actually recoiling it quite a lot at first, simply because I wasn't getting the coils right.
That's interesting.
But now, having done a few of them, I'm getting it a lot better now, and like I say, I'm getting no issues with it at all. And the other thing I've done, conversely to you, because I know you do coil your DNA 40s,
yes.
I've actually found it better if I just single coil it, because I get just as much flavour and just as much vapor clouds out of it from a single coil as I do from a dual coil.
Yeah. The
big difference being the battery lasts a hell of a lot longer. Yeah,
it's just true enough. And that's why I like things like the even though I did slate this thing off, I do like the vapor flask for its dual batteries,
Yeah.
And of course the mod that I built. So dual batteries is superb, even though I only run in single coil on this as well. But yeah, I do find that with dual coils, or I've not even attempted a quad coil on the DNA 40 yet. You've got to be so precise with them and keep them as close together as resistance wise to each other, even more so than with Canthal coils.
The other side of it is when you're coiling coiling up the nickel coils, the Ni200 coils. I used to have a habit of putting quite a fat lump of cotton wool through them. With Canthal, you can't do it on a DNA 40.
No, because you'll end up with the core just going out there, sort of.
yeah, they end up touching, and it just defeats the whole thing. Because all of a sudden, you think you got it right, it goes in there, you turn it on, and it says, temperature control, and you vape it once or twice, and all of a sudden you find the temperature control is switched off.
Yeah, because it suddenly thinks, hang on a minute, I'm just on a resistance Canthal coil here. Yeah.
But the strange thing I have noticed over the last...
marked difference, it knows it's a different coil. It won't bother to ask you.
Yeah.
So that's why that's happening.
Well, I find it interesting because the coils that I do tend to come out at around about 0.2 almost every single time.
Okay. And
So
unless the thing's measuring...
shown as 0.23.
Unless the thing's measuring more accurate than it's displaying you.
Quite possibly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, the last 2 or 3 times when I've recoiled it, it has never ever detected the fact that it is a newly coiled device on there.
So you got problems when you go to vape something, you just put it down, you go to vape it, and it comes up saying new coil, but I've not changed anything. Then you've got a problem.
I was getting that at first with the device. I'm not getting it now. So,
well, I'm glad to see that someone with a beard has a DNA 40.
Yeah, you must have a beard. Once you grow a beard, it is compulsory to buy a DNA 40.
Did you hear that, Mr. Kitson? You've got a very mighty beard now, but still no DNA 40.
Yeah, I think he should be ostracised unless he buys a DNA 40. Now he's got the beard, he has to do it. And then there's Ridian desperately trying to grow a beard and just can't get there.
That's because he really wants a DNA 40. That's why he's growing a beard.
Well, no, he's trying to grow a beard. He's been trying for a week.
Yeah, he's not straining hard enough. He needs to give himself a hernia. But chat are still bringing up some points about about activism and stuff, and I keep saying that word, don't I?
Advocacy.
Advocacy, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know. It's been a long day. Dave K pointed out. So I know he's watching, and I know you've got a beard, and you haven't got a DNA 40, but it does state there that maybe we got too many Facebook groups. We've spread ourselves a bit too thin, perhaps. He's probably got a point.
I can't comment on the Facebook groups because I haven't got a Facebook account. So
I have got one under. I don't like using Facebook. I've got to be honest. I never have, but I do have one, and I've been a bit more active on it in the last few months, to be honest. But the thing still confuses me. Reddit I use quite a lot, but bizarrely not for e-cigs stuff, really. And perhaps I should, but that's more of an American slant on that, I notice. But that's the thing. I mean, we've got any number of forums across the world, and it's a tricky thing to coordinate, isn't it? Well,
yeah. I mean, when I started the petition off, in Wales, the only sort of forum that I tend to post to has tended to be UK Vapers.
Yeah, same here.
I don't generally post that often on there either. But when I started it, I just literally said to people, look, if you're on any other forums, spread the word. And in fairness, they did. And there were forums, people come in, and sign the petition, from forums from all over the world. But yes, it is awkward, because I understand, even though I don't use Facebook myself, I have heard that there are lots of vaping groups on Facebook. I have to take people's word for it. But when things are split across that way, then the message does get diluted because it's like Chinese whispers, and you're passing one thing to the other. Well, I heard from this person who heard from that person who heard from that person, sort of effort, and the message gets extremely diluted and often confused. Let's put it that way. So you don't get a coordinated response to anything. Yeah,
I mean, I know that there is a pretty active Welsh Vapers Facebook group, and a lot of discussion, on the current goings on does go on in there. But I don't. That's the only real vapor group I really pay attention to be honest. I don't really have the time to sit and go through Facebook. But Rob's mentioned in here, what do we think about getting AMs to come to Vape Fest or one of the expos or something?
Well, strange you should say that, because I happen to know that Paddy has invited Mark Drakeford to GFN 2015. Because I asked him to. Now, whether he accepts it, and I very much doubt that he will.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But if he ever comes back, if everything goes back in his face, and he turns around and says, "I didn't know," he can't be told. He can't claim that he wasn't invited, because he always turn around and say back to him, "You have been invited to be enlightened X number of times, and you just turned it down." I also asked Paddy if he'd invite the likes of Kirsty Ellen and Darren Miller as well. I don't know whether that has happened, but it would be very good if it gets at least some of the politicians to come to that. I'm not just talking about Welsh ones. Obviously, the Welsh ones are the one that are my focus at the moment, because I live in Wales, and I'm the one that's under most threat, and you are, to be honest with you, are under most threat from what the Welsh government want to do. The Scottish government have dropped their designs on banning vaping at the moment, and the English government, or the Westminster government, I should say, aren't even looking at it at the moment.
That's an interesting thing, actually. I presume you saw the Petitions Committee video last week on Senate TV.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and they do actually mention the Scottish process on there, don't they?
Well, they did, because it was in the letter that I sent to them.
There we go then.
The interesting part about that is that I was absolutely delighted when I was watching that last week, because William Powell, the guy who's normally chair of that committee, he's ill or something, I think. He's just not around at the moment.
Okay.
So they had to vote for a temporary chair. But was also very vociferous in that meeting was Russell George, who was a Conservative AM, who I have not come across before. But he was also very outspoken, and it was him really that pushed the point. Like, he said, well, not only do we need to refer this petition back to the to Mark Drakeford and tell him he has to answer the questions, because he's patently not. He hasn't got answers to to the evidence we put to him, and that's why he's not answering it. But he's going to be made to answer it, or they're at least going to try. But Russell George then said this also needs to be referred to the Health and Social Care Committee, the petition. And that's something else, another subject I discussed with David Rees last week, and he said, oh, we're not going to see it before the summer. I said, oh, yes, you are, because my petition has been referred to your committee. Oh, was the answer to that.
Right, let's take a quick ad break. So I'm acutely aware we're actually getting quite low on time, so I need to get the adverts in. And we'll be back in, how long? 3 minutes and 13 seconds.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Vapers. Dripper just got 40% bigger. So if you love discovering new e-liquids, tell Dripper what flavours you like and we'll send you 70ml of juice and at least 5 flavours. With a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe, dripper.co.uk.
What's in this e-cig cloud? Harmless water vapour, right? Pretty much, yes. Compared to a lit cigarette, it's much safer than smoke. But it contains nicotine. And nicotine on its own isn't toxic and doesn't cause cancer. If you're worried about switching to vapour, here are some facts. No tar, no smoke, no burnt tobacco. Cooking your evening meal produces more toxins than are found in exhaled vapour. Tobacco smoke contains toxins at very high levels, and vapour does not. And that vapour contains 6,000 times less carcinogens than cigarette smoke. Electronic cigarette vapour. There's nothing to be frightened of. The only dangerous electronic cigarette is a banned one.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
And we're back. Hello. Right. See, chat's been busy while we've been having adverts then. Aye. There's a lot of chat about coordination as well. And that is, as we just said, that is definitely a sticking point. I mean, as far as all the vapors in even the UK go, I mean, the VTT video audience is is a tiny drop in the ocean. Facebook groups, they're not going to encompass everybody. And nor forums. It's a tricky one to actually get the message out there. Maybe the vendors should do more. That's my personal point of view. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Simon.
Well, it's possible. I mean, as far as VTTV is concerned, when you watch the show live, you tend to see the same names in there,
yes,
week in, week out. You get one or two variances, but it tends to be the same names. Now, obviously, I can't comment about the amount of people who watch it and catch up. I mean, I quite often watch the shows and catch up when I can't watch them live.
Yeah.
So you could be getting, a wider variance of audience. I mean, I think Dave Kay mentioned on one of his shows fairly recently, like, he generally gets around about 5,000 views on his show after it's broadcast live.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously a fair few people that do view it from us, so it has some influence on it. But I was picking up on various things in chat just now, where you're talking about the different forums, and people saying that, that they get disinterested by what's going on in the forums. And I think part of that is that invariably when you get a forum, not especially a large forum, not everybody's going to agree with everybody else, and it tends to be a lot of animosity and mudslinging going on across the place. And I've seen it quite a few times on UKV, even, and I'm sure you have as well.
Oh yes. This is the catch-22. Vaping is expanding exponentially at the moment. But when I got into it, and as I'm sure when you did, Simon, as well, and most of the people in chat, it was more of a close-knit community. It was, if you needed to know something about something, you would go into a forum, you would engage with the other users there, you would get hints and tips. Now there's brick and mortar vape shops. I've heard about these from someone, a mate of mine, sort of down the road, and he says his friend uses them, that sort of thing, and they pop in and give one a go. So at that point, maybe the vendors should be making everybody aware of yes, we can sell you these, but do you know that this is not going to be available if this goes through as it currently stands? That's my take on things anyway.
Well, I find the larger vendors are very aware of it. What I can't comment on so much on, and perhaps this is something that you could put to Ridian on in a future show, because he's had a lot of interaction with most of the vendors around South Wales.
That's true, yes.
But I'm starting to think of some of the small vendors, like for example, I know there's a vendor stall in Swansea Market.
Yeah.
Never used it, and it literally is, more or less like just a tiny stall. What kind of advice are they giving to people who are, buying e-cigarettes from them,
if any?
Because Swansea Market is probably the most popular market in Wales, and there's a lot of people go through there, on a daily basis. So there's probably quite a lot of people going into that stall. Now, I don't know, perhaps they are giving out good advice. I really can't comment, but I'm using that as an example. Like, when you've got some of these small market stalls selling stuff, and what are they telling people?
Oh, it's a fair point. I mean, are they in it just to make a few quid while they can, or? That's the thing. I mean, when I started, every single place you bought from online, it was basically run by they were run by vapers that started off like you and I, and decided they actually wanted to make a business out of it. And of course things are going to change when things get bigger and more popular. But there is also, and it was pointed out in chat earlier, I forget who by, it might have been very boring actually, pointed out that there's a state of mind with some people that because vaping has got so big, it can't possibly go away. Well, it can.
Well,
it can be hobbled in such a way that it's just going to wither a little bit.
Well, my answer to that is how big was smoking 30, 40 years ago?
Yeah.
It didn't stop them banning it.
No.
It didn't stop them banning it in public spaces anyway. If they can do that to smoking, they can do that to anything.
Oh yeah. And it's all about propaganda in the end, isn't it? I mean, that's how they got it in the end.
Well, yeah. I mean, you only got to read the likes of Chris Snowden's blog when he's going on, about these people applying the same rules of engagement, if you want, you know, that they did for, you know, against big tobacco, and now employing those against, you know, action on sugar, action on salt, and all this sort of stuff. And you think, where's it going to end? I mean, are you just, you know, is it? What are these people going to do? Like, you know, when we're all reduced to eating cardboard?
Yeah, I was having a chat with Andy Abrook earlier on our chat, and I forget the name. It's someone from the World Health Organization, but is now calling for everyone that goes to a rock concert to wear earplugs.
Yeah, I seen that one as well. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Really?
You're talking to a person here who has been to see some of the loudest bands on the planet. You know, the likes of Motorhead, and the Who, and Saxon. You know, a lot of these big heavy metal bands from the 1980s when I was young and long-haired and naive.
Oh, Saxon! I saw them once at Maidstone Leisure Centre. Superb gig.
Yeah, but the point is, like, you know, they were extremely loud concerts.
Yeah.
When I tend to play music, especially when I'm in my car, it is loud. Yeah. Now, you know, when I was young, like, you know, I always had my parents telling me to turn the bloody music down.
Yep.
In my house these days, it's my kids telling me to turn the music down because they can't understand why I have to have music as loud as I do. And I say, well, God, Bennett, like, that's the only way you can listen to music.
Well, rock music was never designed to be played quietly in the background, was it?
Well,
it's there up front and away you go.
I mean, back then in the 80s, like, you know, I was into, mostly the heavy metal bands.
Yeah.
You know, I've matured a little bit now, like, you know, and moved on to more of the prog rock, but I still like playing even the prog rock. I like playing it loud. It has to be played loud.
Oh, right. Especially
it
the
has
prog rock.
It has a whole new dimension to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not deaf.
No.
I've been listening to, it's been for about 40 years, like, you know, I've been, you know, playing music at, stupid levels. That's not affecting my hearing.
I mean, I've got a stack of records. You can see some of them behind me here. And I can assure you, not one of them is easy listening.
Well, no. Stack behind me here. Let's pull an example out. There you go.
Oh, Hawkwind's lovely.
There's about 3,500 albums around my house somewhere. I don't know where they are. I haven't got a turntable.
I'm not even going to attempt to get some of these out because everything will just fall over. But I've got some doozies up there, I'll tell you. One day I might actually get some of my collectible picture discs out and things. I love picture discs. I really do.
Everything I got are collectibles, especially the Hawkwind albums. I got just about every original album they ever did in the original format. They're worth a fortune. Anyway, we're moving away from e-cigs now.
Sorry, I could talk about this sort of subject for thinking hours. I really could. I mean, I was about to say, do you remember record fairs? Oh, they were superb things.
Yes, I used to go to a lot of record fairs, buy all the bootleg tapes and everything.
Yes. Bootleg live recordings.
Tapes around here somewhere.
With those lovely photocopied inlays on fluorescent pink paper.
Yeah. AC/DC live in Nottingham or something.
An ex-sound engineer that he was. Where is this? Yes, ex-pro live sound engineer. Trust me, they've been engineers to keep sound levels down for 10 years. They failed, so they're going after the punters now. Yeah. Not only do they want to tell you what you want to listen to with who pays attention to the charts these days? I mean, anyone?
Well, I'm laughing. Yeah, I'm looking at Neil Rossi, and he's got the very first Iron Maiden single. I can beat that, Neil, because I saw Iron Maiden in Brangwyn Hall in Swansea before they even had band. So.
I'll tell you what, we better wrap up there. We're getting close to time, and I've got to obviously play the up and comings, that sort of thing. But it's nice to end on a light note, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's got chat talking about music for a change now, right?
Well, yeah, there we go. Yeah, we like to give a variety on this show. But I might appear on Andy Abrook's radio show one day and have a little chat about music as well. But anyway,
he's got some quite interesting musical.
Simon's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for the hard work.
Thank you, Matt, for having me on the show.
You're welcome. And before I do go, I'd like to thank Dave, Sav, Kat, and Daz last week for covering for me when I wasn't well. Much appreciated. So thank you very much, and I hope you counted all those bits of those grains of rice. Anyway, until next Wednesday. Not this Wednesday coming, but the Wednesday after, I'll be back on my normal slot. So, okay. I'll see you next week. He says, queuing things up. Ta-da.
RY4 Radio.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.